Welcome back, you guys, to Chokin' Hazard. My name is Zach, and I hope you guys have 60 bucks for tomorrow, because that is when Cyberpunk 2077 comes out. And it would really suck, you guys, if you didn't have 60 bucks for tomorrow, because then maybe you'd probably have to sell blood and semen to get the $60.
We could sell blood and semen.
God.
I don't think I have to mention this, but Cyberpunk 2077 is just a little bit hyped. Just a little bit hyped at the moment. Maybe a little too much, but it's definitely hyped and everybody's talking about the game. And because of this, everybody and their grandmother is going onto their favorite gaming website trying to find out if this game really does live up to this godlike hype. And for the majority of reviews, it really does seem Cyberpunk lives up to this godlike hype. Now, there are a couple reviews that go against the grain. One of these against the grain reviews comes from a games journalist known as Kellie Plagge. She's a journalist for GameSpot, and supposedly, this is what I've been hearing on the internet, she did a half-ass review on Cyberpunk, one of the fucking biggest games of the year. So what I'm going to go ahead and do for you guys today is I'm going to go ahead and review Kellie Plagge's review. I'm going to be the journalist of the journalists, I guess you could say. Because I want to go ahead and keep these people in check if they are being bad. Now, possibly, maybe the gamers are wrong this time. Maybe the gamers are overhyping this game and they just don't want to see a bad review. That could be the case. But I'm going to go ahead and review her review today. I'm going to see if she's did her homework or if she didn't and she half-assed everything. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, sorry, you guys. My daughter decided to wake up just now while I'm doing this this review. And say hello to Melody. Let me put down the camera a little bit. Say hello, Melody. See if I can... Boom. Say hello. Say hi. Hey, oh, there you go. Good job. All right. So, where was I right now? I feel like I forget where I was located. So basically, 49 reviews came in from critics, and 47 of them were positive. So if you go ahead and kind of scroll down, you can get the general consensus of how people are perceiving, or how the critics are perceiving Cyberpunk 2077. Okay, Melly, I'm trying to talk about things. You're just here being cute. So there, you see, it's 100. Most of the things, like it gets like the worst it gets really is 80, and the two reviews that were against the grain, right here. Let's click those. One is GameSpot and is by. Let's click on it. Yeah, and this review, the one that is 70, which is worse than normal, is Kellie Plagge. And I think that's how you pronounce her name. And she gives it a lower score than normal than the other group. She has mixed opinions on it. So I decided to look into how... Hello, Melly. I decided to look into her and see if she's made any other bad reviews. And I found out... Sorry, you guys. I had to put the baby down. She was clicking on my keyboard and stopping my recording. So now we're here. But where was I? Oh, yeah. Kellie Plagge. So Kellie Plagge, she... Basically, I looked into her past to see if there was any other bad reviews that she did, and there was one that was another controversial one. It was basically that she made a bad review for Pokemon. It was one of the Pokemon games, like Ruby and Sapphire or something like that, and it basically said that the cons of the game was there's too much water. But here's the video that everyone's really complaining about, and they're saying, you know, why she's a bad reviewer and why they're kind of harassing her, or I guess you could say. And the reason is that it really seems like she didn't play the game, or she just doesn't understand the idea of an RPG game. Let me go ahead and show you.
Finished it, but I've almost finished it. I met a guy who used to be twins who put one consciousness in the two bodies, and like that was like an interesting character. I didn't follow that quest because it was like it involved like a fight, and I didn't want to do brawling, so I was just like, I mean, there's so much that I ignored because I was like,
the
why?
kind of right is like
the thing I mentioned earlier where there were twins that were one person in two bodies. That quest was just like go brawl some people, and I was like, I don't have time for this. And then like I kept getting texts from people like, I have a car for sale, and it was like, I got got a free car. I don't like. I'm good. I don't need to buy any more cars. There's a lot of stuff on the periphery that I was just like, I am never going to use this. Like, I crafted like one thing. There's like a whole crafting interface and like all this crafting
It's
stuff.
too much, man. You don't want to craft shit. Why would you want to craft shit in a video game?
I went clothes shopping once. I would drive by, like in Red Dead Redemption 2, you would like walk by something and it would be like an emergent thing happening and you could interact with it. There's stuff kind of like that, but it was just like, help the cops catch these criminals. And I was like, what if I don't want to help the cops? And then I would just drive away. And like, I didn't do a single one of them because I just didn't see the point. I feel like I didn't mess with my weapons at all. There's a bunch of weapon attachments I didn't bother with.
Mess with your weapons. It's the
like,
point.
Later and I used them
what are you doing?
Also, just the way that the game is structured, it's like I felt like I had so much more to do.
Yes.
But I needed to go do that final quest, and I was like, I have barely touched. Like, I looked at my inventory and I was like, I don't even know what half of these things are because I've just barely touched it. It just feels like the scale of this game is too big. There's just too much. Like, what am I doing here? There's something to do.
There's
like create.
There's too much in this game for you guys.
The world all the time, and I just didn't get that. So overall, I would say I was disappointed.
You guys, if you guys didn't catch that, Cyberpunk 2077 just has too much for you guys. You need to have a smaller game. You need to have less bang for your buck. You need less schlong in those pants that you call Cyberpunk. There's just too much there. You don't want that. Why would you want more for $60? It's like, obviously I'm just kidding. That doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is, that was just kind of a clip, like a compilation of like stupid things that she said. And that was obviously someone was biased when they made that video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually watch the official GameSpot review by her and go through it with you guys to see if they're taking shit out of context and she actually has some interesting things to say that sound intelligent, not just the dumb things that she said. So let's go ahead and jump into that. All right, you guys, so now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and watch this review. It is 18 minutes long. I'm probably going to cut most of it out, so it's not going to be that long, thank God. But, what we're going to do is I'm going to go through the entire thing, and if there's anything that is kind of jumps out at me as either stupid or smart that she says, I'll go ahead and make a comment about it. And you guys will kind of see most of the video with me. Some of the stuff that, the obvious video game, lingo, where it's just like, oh, this is an RPG, it's a first-person shooter, you have missions and stuff like that. Like, the stuff that you already know, I'm not going to leave that in the video. It's just going to be things that are interesting or relevant to the topic at hand. So let's go ahead and get started.
Early on in Cyberpunk 2077, there's a series of side quests that has you tracking down rogue taxis run by faulty AI. You have to talk one of the taxis down from suicide as it contemplates driving off a bridge, while another needs to be brute forced into behaving, and a third is an obvious reference to a famous video game AI that manipulates you as you chase it down. It's one of the best minor quest lines in the game, an intriguing and surprisingly human sub-story that rewards you with lots of much-needed cash to boot. It's also an excuse to send you to every corner of Night City, and it's a clever introduction to all the areas you haven't yet been. I spent a lot of my playtime following side quest threads.
Oh, look at that fucking aim.
About the premise and hoping to
oh, aim, please, journalist aim. Oh, you can always tell that they have no aim.
Not just any other city.
Cyberpunk 2077 draws heavily from its source material, with everything from the world itself to the life and death of Johnny Silverhand coming from its pen and paper inspiration.
That's kind of cool.
Unlike in a tabletop RPG, you aren't playing a role of your own creation in Cyberpunk 2077. You're
Really?
playing V, and this is V's story, not yours. I often felt like I was role-playing two different characters, one V for the side quests, and one more limited V for the main story. That's mostly because the main story puts you on a clock. It's not literally on a timer, but it is very urgent in the way that RPG stories often are, and it has the same pitfalls as a result. It feels weird to do throwaway fun stuff when you have a serious, ever-present threat to attend to, and in V's case, it just doesn't make sense to dally. You have more freedom to play the character you really want to during side activities, but main story V has clearly defined priorities.
It's first place or no place, Dex. Cost isn't a...
Alright, I think that's actually very good criticism, in my opinion. Because I know some people are going to be like, well, the main story is going to be cool and stuff like that. No, I get you. But if you're making an RPG type of video game, especially based off like a tabletop kind of RPG sort of thing, you need to have the ability and the flexibility to make your character any way you want. Not just for looks, but for also story. So one of the things that a lot of people criticize Fallout 4 about, by the way, from Bethesda, is that Fallout 4, they basically thrust you into a position where you can't really make your own character's story. It's kind of like you can't invent it at all. You are a military man who is married that has a kid, and you have to find your kid. You can't be an evil person. Like, in a real RPG environment, kind of like in New Vegas, I'll go ahead and do the Fallout franchise because it's the easiest. New Vegas, you are a courier. And then you got shot in the head, you got buried alive, and you woke up, and you can either seek revenge, you can work with the guy, you can do whatever you want from there. So what's so cool is that when you get shot in the head in that game, all your past memories are erased. So you can technically, in your own mind, and in the game, make your character evil as fuck, super nice. It doesn't matter because it makes sense in the context of the story. You have no clue who you were in the past. And even, because of that, you're kind of free to really make your character any way you want. Now, in Fallout 4, for example, you were this loving husband, you were in this little nuclear family, you were living in this very nice neighborhood. It wouldn't really make any sense in the context of how you are in the beginning of the game to instantly become sort of like some sort of psycho genocidal maniac later. And I think that's what she's trying to say. She's trying to say that it doesn't make much sense for your character, like, you can switch your character up, but if you have to play the main story the way the main story wants you to be played, which it kind of doesn't, like, I don't like that myself, so hopefully that's not the case, but she's saying it is here, so I'm gonna go ahead and give her a point for that one. That's a good critique right there.
Factor.
Classic. I'd expect nothing less from eager, supple youth. Respect.
I often couldn't find the character I'd been developing via side quests when I returned to the main plot. Not in how I'd been shaping her personality as she reacted to events, nor in the character I built as she was forced into more traditional boss fights.
That makes sense. See, now, actually, that I think that's a great critique, in my opinion, because I personally will be annoyed at that. So if you make a hacker, you should be able to do something with that ability, especially in any sort of boss fight. I like it. I remember when Obsidian in video games, you can technically beat certain boss fights just through dialogue alone if your dialogue is off the chain. You know what I mean? Like, if it's like a level 100 and you do dialogue all the time, you should be able to even talk your way out of bad situations. You can be a pacifist in a lot of games like that. And for example, the original 2 Fallouts and Fallout New Vegas, you can technically be a pacifist through a lot of it. And hopefully you can do that here. And you want to be able to, as you guys are gamers and you like RPGs, don't you want the option to be able to really do anything you want? Maybe you want to be a kingpin that can pay people off to fight for you. You can do that in some Fallout games. The original Fallout games, you can really just not attack anybody. You can do a completely pacifist route. You can get people to fight for you if you needed to. You could do all that stuff where you're not actually using your real fists. So the fact that she made a hacker character and then she felt that her morals in her side quests didn't really pan out in the main story at all, and the main story kind of pigeonholed you into one area, and you couldn't actually use your hacks to do the things that you want to do in the game. You have to use your gun. That's not a true RPG, which it's just a good critique. I just 100% agree with that. That would actually annoy me, and it's one of the reasons that the main Fallout game, or not main Fallout game, Fallout 4 was a little bit of a disappointment in my opinion.
Progression. Granted, I was playing Cyberpunk on a tight deadline, so I couldn't spend much time doing odd jobs. But there is a ridiculous amount of stuff to buy and seemingly endless money-making jobs to take on. There's even a whole section in your quest journal dedicated to all the cars people have offered to sell you. Though you start the game with a car, and I got multiple free vehicles for completing side quests, so I never bought a car and couldn't find a reason to. That's emblematic of the world of Cyberpunk 2077. It is so full of things to buy, to do, to see, and yet so much of it doesn't feel essential. Night City is massive, and while you can fast travel...
Pause. Alright. The thing is, right, so I don't like that comment, personally, because the thing is that the game is supposed to immerse you into the environment. Technically, you don't need to buy anything in the game. You don't have to. It's just like real life. Technically, I could have none of the shit in the back over here and just have a monitor, a keyboard, and a computer. with a mouse, and that's it. And everything else in my room could just be fucking blank. But why would you do that if you have money and you want to spruce up everything? So the fact that she is giving her opinion, she's like, well, I didn't have to buy anything. Yeah, it's not about having to do anything. It's that, did you want to do that? Did you want to be able to do double jumps? Did you want to look different? Did you want a different car? It's about customizing your character the way you want to. That's what she, like, for example, in the beginning she was bitching about how she didn't have the option to play the character that she wanted to play, and now the fact that she's like, there's too many options for me to choose from. It's like, weren't you just complaining about that, right? You were just saying that you didn't get to make your character morally exactly the way you wanted in the main story. So now you're just like, well, I can't. I mean, I guess I could look the way I wanted to and drive the car that I wanted to, but I didn't want that. That's not essential. See, it's like, throw that one out the board. That more stuff that you can customize and fix up your character, the better. That's my opinion on it. Moving on.
Of the game, where when I drove from one district to the next, radio turned up, taking in
Jesus,
lights and
drive the fucking car.
Piercing the sky. And then I get out of the car and hear one of the oft-repeated advertisements blaring out onto the street and quickly snap out of the reverie of driving. There's one ad that's just a man making a long, exaggerated orgasm sound that tended to pierce through any conversation I was having.
Organic! All pleasure from all foods. Provides 330% of recommended daily vitamin.
That's awesome. That's just straight up awesome.
The ads are one of many, many aesthetic choices in Cyberpunk 2077.
I think that was hilarious.
With no real point. There's one ad in particular that was the topic of much discussion pre-release. It features a feminine person with a giant, exaggerated, veiny erection in their leotard and advertises a drink called Chromanticore with the tagline, "Mix it up." It is everywhere. And while the purpose of it may be to show what a sex-obsessed, superficial, exploitative place Night City is, there's nothing in the main story or any of the side quests I did that gives it even that much context. I found just one message on one of the many computers I logged into that commented on how lowbrow Night City culture is. The result is that there's a fetishization of trans people at every turn in a game with only one very minor trans character that I found at least, and with a very limited and binary character creator.
Hey. Okay. Let's not... Okay. See, I'm not one of those woke people or whatever, and I'm fine with trans people in general. Like, I do what you want. I'm fucking libertarian on all that stuff. Like, if live your life the way you want to live it. Now, why are you complaining that they are showing transgender people here and they're over-sexualizing everybody? You were explaining that, right? How there's men and women that are over-sexualized. Like, one guy was making, like, just an absurd orgasm with these women touching his chest or whatever. So he's being objectified, right? It's a dude. Transgender person that they're advertising there being objectified. There was another woman, orgasm thing, objectified, okay? What's the problem with a trans person being there? We're all equal here. They're objectifying everybody there in that context. So I don't know why, like, she's just like, well, there's over-sexualization of trans... You just explain that there's sexualization of the other people, too. Don't give me that nonsense. That's that woke PC bullshit where you're just like, well, because it's trans, you just can't say... You can't put them anywhere bad. Like, that box of, like, objectification and bad things, can't put them in there. It's like, no. Equals equal, okay? So I'm going to throw that one out the board.
Conversely, I also did a really silly quest.
That's an awesome base piece
that had no point, but was delightful in a weird way. Side quests amounted to around 35 hours of my total playtime, and they were what propelled me through. While not every one lands, there are some that feel essential in a way that very little else in the game does. These include Judy's story arc and the taxi excursion, as well as a much shorter story about a depressed man who lives in V's apartment building. Even on the tight review deadline, I kept finding myself seeking out just one more side quest before bed, just because I was eager to see what I would find. All that said, when I finished the game, I felt empty. All the friends I had made, what I had learned about Johnny, the way I developed my V as a character, much of it didn't seem to matter. Making friends in a lonely, sad city doesn't affect the urgency of V.
See, I agree with that too. I 100% agree with that. She's saying that, she's saying basically, hey, well, I did all these different side missions. I made these certain moral choices in the game, and I want that to matter at the end of the game. And I'm sure all of you guys think that's probably important too. So I hope that they actually have that matter at the end of the game. I hope it's not just, her first playthrough and, in reality it did change something. But yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd be really pissed if that wasn't the case either. So hopefully this game's not all hype,
V's main quest, and it doesn't seem to affect her priorities related to it. Discovering a police-sponsored murder cover-up or the depths of corporate control of Night City life doesn't seem to change V's ambitions to be remembered as a legendary Night City merc. Falling in love didn't even give my V what she wanted. I don't quite understand the ending I got, but it made me sad. It didn't reflect the V I felt I developed, one who helped her friends and followed her curiosity. Worst of all, I have no idea what Cyberpunk 2077 is even trying to say. There's an overall theme of identity that's dashed by the dissonance between the V you actually play and the V you get in the end. Otherwise, I couldn't tell you what Cyberpunk is trying to do with its beautifully grotesque world. I got a lot out of the side quests and some of the characters, but I got nothing out of the overall story.
It's alright, Mateo.
Alright, I can kind of agree with that too. So, what she's saying, because obviously what you're trying to get out of a video game, right, is gameplay. You want gameplay, but obviously in Cyberpunk 2077, just like The Witcher, made by CD Projekt Red, there is a story behind everything. There's morals, there's a philosophy, there is some sort of message trying to be said through the game. And she doesn't understand what the message is in Cyberpunk. So that is actually concerning as well, because the game is going to have a lot of messaging. Obviously, there's the message could be just how the future could possibly turn out to be. But there needs to be a message about corruption, maybe inequality, something like that. As in for this, it just might be kind of just one of those do whatever you want sort of, be free sort of games. So a good example, I guess you could say, is how Red Dead Redemption, the very first one, is the message in that game was what a father would do for his family. If you've played that game, you played the first one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's kind of the overarching message in the story. Is what will this guy do to help save his family? He'll go through leaps, he'll do anything for his family. That's kind of the gist of it. So I'm hoping there's some sort of underlying message in this game as well. Supposedly she didn't find it. Hopefully she's wrong, because that would annoy me as well.
But you'd have to watch out for negative energy fields.
It also bears a mention, Cyberpunk 2077 is phenomenally buggy.
Saving my ass, V.
That's another good criticism.
I played a pre-release build on PC that was updated during the review period, and there's a day one patch planned as well, but the scale of technical issues is just too large to reasonably expect immediate fixes. I encountered some kind of bug on every mission I went on, from more common, funnier ones like characters randomly T-posing to several complete crashes. I didn't notice much of an improvement after the update either. In a very late game, very important fight, the game froze on me not once but twice. I ended up taking a break out of frustration before attempting and
That guy was naked.
the third
It looked like
These bugs, more than any game I've played in years, took me out of the experience often. I was playing on a gaming laptop well above the minimum specs announced for Cyberpunk 2077, while another GameSpot player experienced the same severity and frequency of bugs, though no hard crashes, on an even higher-end desktop PC. Your mileage may vary, but in our experience, the bugs are obtrusive and substantial across the board, often forcing us to reload saves or exit the game entirely.
that's not
It's really
good.
hard to get into a world you constantly have to leave. But then it's
I
hard
agree
to
with
get
that.
into Cyberpunk 2077's world in general. So much of it is superficial set dressing, and there's so much happening all around you, like ads going off at all times, gunfights breaking out in the streets, texts coming in about cars you'll never buy, that a lot of the game feels superfluous. The side quests and the characters they showcase are the shining beacon through the neon-soaked bleakness of Night City, and they give you room to explore the best the core RPG mechanics have to offer. These are what carried me through an otherwise disappointing experience.
All right, I'm gonna pause it there. But yeah, you guys. So let me tell you what I think about this. So she said from that other video that she didn't really get into the gameplay mechanics too much, other than the stealth and things like that. She was on a time crunch. That's fine, and this is why I think it's fine. This game is like Witcher in the sense where the gameplay is great, right? Everyone wants decent gameplay, at least decent. Good gameplay is even better. Amazing gameplay like Doom Eternal, sweet, amazing. The difference is between Doom Eternal is that Doom Eternal has no story, and that's not what it's really based around. Doom Eternal is about 100% the gameplay. So they have to make that shit and polish that shit and make it fucking shine, right? In this particular game, the thing that they need to polish isn't particularly the gameplay. They just need the gameplay to work. The main part in Cyberpunk 2077 is the story. And what I think she did is she really didn't focus on much of the combat. She focused on the story and put most of her effort into the story and kind of went through it with a fine-tooth comb. So yeah, she might have done all the different things to kind of fix her character up and make her guns a particular way, but I don't think she cared too much about that. She wanted to get into the story of the game, and obviously, you guys, the gameplay mechanics is going to make the game a lot better. If it has good gameplay mechanics, good grind, where you have to grind and level your character up and fix up your character in a certain way and make them badass, completely agree, that is a big portion of the game, and it shouldn't be ignored. But don't write her off for being a bad reviewer just because she didn't go through that. She has been, most of the review was her talking about the story of the game and how the choices that she made in the game didn't interact with the main story and how it didn't really do anything towards the end, at least what she saw. And that's a big problem, in my opinion. So I don't think you guys should write her off for being a bad reviewer because she didn't go through the other stuff. Because this game, I think, is like 20% or 30% gameplay. Let's say 20% gameplay, 20% grind, where you're like fixing your character up and kind of changing up the way your character is. And then 60%, the next 60% is story and how it affects the world. That's the main thing. That's what I love the Fallout games for. So if that doesn't hit right, it could fuck this game up. And I'm not trying to be like a Debbie Downer here, you know what I mean? I really want this game to work. I love CD Projekt Red. But that could be a big huge issue, especially with the glitches and stuff day one. If people can't play the game, they're going to be pissed off. So that's just my opinion, guys. If you disagree with me, please leave a comment down below. I'd really like to know what you guys think. But to be honest with you, I think Kellie might have something going here, and I don't think we should just beat her up for no reason. I want to see people need to kind of research a little bit more and see what they. I'm not trying to defend her either. I don't know her. I don't give a shit about her. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. I don't care for this person. So for me, it's like, she's talking about some really legitimate things here, and I don't think anybody should write her off for being a bad reviewer. That's all I'm trying to say. So yeah, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and do all of that YouTube business. Leave a comment down below if you agree with me. You can stroke my ego if you're agreeing with me, and if you don't agree with me, please leave it down below too. I want to know what you think. So thank you guys so much for watching, and see ya. Hey, you made it to the end. That means you must enjoy my content, so go ahead and tap that subscribe button for me. And if you don't like my content, subscribe anyways. My videos are proven to make your schlong longer. Follow me on Parler if you want additional content updates, or if you want to interact with me personally. And join my BitChute channel for additional content. Thanks, you guys. See ya.